Welcome to the Group 4 project. Our topic is on the California wildfires. While there are obvious environmental factors like the release of smoke and destruction of trees, effects on humans appear as well. In 2018 alone, there were 8,527 fires, including the 57 massive ones that caused 83% of the damage, with a combined total of 1,893,913 acres of land destroyed, killing over 100 people and creating almost $3.5 billion in damages. The causes of every single one of the fires isn't known, though it is known that most of them are caused by arson, campfires, cigarettes, cars, fireworks, and broken power lines. Societies have suppressed fire because of how dangerous fire seems to be to people, allowing for a buildup of the debris in forests so that when a fire eventually does happen, the fire is much hotter and builds up much more quickly and easily because of all the dried leaves, twigs, and other biological fuels sitting at the bottom of the forest. Humans preventing any fire from starting creates an environment that once a fire can't be suppressed immediately, it becomes a much larger deal than if there were regular small fires at decently regular periods, like in the case of a natural fire. Fires in general are important to an ecosystem. The fires themselves don't normally pose a threat to an environment it's burning unless it goes out of control and turns into a wildfire. At that point, it threatens biodiversity and the general environment, possibly killing off a species that's fairly concentrated to a specific part of the ecosystem or with a low population. Overall, wildfires will decrease biodiversity at unknown levels depending on the fire and where it is and how far it spreads. There are also prevention methods, such as grazing forests to prevent a buildup of the biodebris on the forest floor, pruning lower branches of trees. In buildings, fire danger areas have materials that are fireproof or resistant, and people are told to remove chemicals that are flammable to at least 15 feet away from their building, especially when fires are happening nearby. There are also fire lines, which is creating a line of specialized fire in order to prevent a forest fire from spreading past that point.
The sun is transmitting some of its energy to Earth. That energy passes right through the atmosphere and reaches the surface. That energy is absorbed by the Earth's surface and then proceeds to remit that energy as infrared waves into space. If for some reason all the energy absorbed by the Earth's surface is remitted into space, the average global temperature would be very low, approximately negative 17 degrees Celsius. But that is not the case. A part of that energy interacts with greenhouse gases in the atmosphere by interrupting the flow of energy. An example of greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, etc. Each year, there are more and more greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. These are produced by conducting activities which include burning coal or burning petrol, etc. This can be explained using the concept of albedo, which is defined by the measure of the diffuse reflection of solar radiation out of the total solar radiation received by an astronomical body. This basically means how much of the sun's energy is absorbed by the Earth's surface. Dark surfaces reflect less sunlight than light surfaces. For example, forests absorb more energy than snow. This increases the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and as previously stated, greenhouse gases absorb energy in the Earth's atmosphere, increasing the Earth's temperature.
In severe slow-moving fires, the combustion of vegetative materials creates a gas that penetrates the soil profile. As the soil cools, this gas condenses and forms a waxy coating. This causes the soil to repel water. It becomes hydrophobic. This hydrophobic condition increases the rate of water runoff. The amount of water that gets into the soil is reduced, making it difficult for seeds to germinate and for the roots of surviving plants to obtain moisture. Plants and animals adapt to fire. A process called succession occurs after a fire. When an ecosystem is disrupted by a wildfire, it can quickly suffer an intensive mortality of its dominant species. However, some plants survive the disturbance through different strategies they have evolved to survive wildfires. Some plants use heat to their advantage. They sprout from roots or branches after a fire has incinerated their above-ground biomass. Other plants opportunistically seize a size temporarily purged by fire to promote their own reproductions. Their seeds then fall to fresh ash below, where they can take root without much competition. Still, other plants depend on fire in different ways. Longleaf pine in its young grassy phase withstands a fire, then grows quickly. Fireweed seeds lies in litter and soil until liberated by a deep burn. Such plants are true pyrophytes, fire lovers, whose survival depends on the predictable return of flame. On the other hand, some animals seek to avoid it. If they burrow, they go underground until the flames pass. If they can fly, they soar away. If they are otherwise mobile, they escape the fire. Only very rarely do they become trapped. In fact, some take advantage of the flames and go hunting. We can say that reciprocity exists between fire regimes and the biota that sustain them. After all, wildfire combusts the biomass of living systems shaped by evolutionary and ecological stresses, of which fire is one. This implies that animals and plants will adapt themselves to the kind of landscape the fire creates, thus shaping the kinds of fires they may experience.
Wildfires occur due to an increased temperature within the atmosphere up to the point where trees catch fire. When trees start to burn, they emit high levels of carbon dioxide, which pollute the atmosphere, the air that close citizens breathe. An experiment was done by Jackson's laboratory, which tested the effects of CO2 intake on mice. The result showed a decrease in skeletal muscle, wet rate, fiber diameter, and strength. These effects on the human body are not shown to be extremely measurable due to the impact of wildfires, but by looking at the big picture of human deficiency due to carbon dioxide consumption, it affects the population as a group. If looking further deep into the muscle's chemical reactions, muscles require the supply of oxygen in order for them to function. When in motion, they need oxygen in order for them to cool down. If oxygen is not supplied, there will be an accumulation of lactic acid within the muscles, making the person feel tired and sore from minimal exercise. The accumulation of lactic acid and oxygen deficiency with exposure to CO2 could even end up creating organ failures like heart attacks, lung cancer, leading to the person's death. Humans are not the only ones affected. Animals within the fire will also be affected by the same biological effects mentioned previously, affecting every living organism.